Live now to our reporter Ziyanda and Ngcobo in eThekwini for us. Ziyanda, good afternoon to you. We've heard from Prince Buthelezi there. Not everyone agrees. What's the latest from where you are?
Absolutely, Stephen. So we've just concluded a briefing that was led by Prince Mbonisi. You'll know and remember his name in the court challenges that have been brought before the country's courts contesting then the ascension of King MisuZulu kaZwelithini to the throne. This afternoon they're saying that they're peace-loving people, that it's not that they hate, King MisuZulu kaZwelithini, but that the processes that the family has to follow in order to identify the rightful heir to the throne were not correctly followed. So as far as they're concerned, there isn't a king on the throne, and that if there is going to be some kind of peace and unity within the family, that they wouldn't mind that, King MisuZulu approaches them, but in his capacity as a prince, because they don't recognize him as the king. And actually, I've got Prince Mbonisi Zulu. He's the brother of the late King kaZwelithini Zulu. Dwana, you've this afternoon said, Uguti, you don't want the message to be spread, Uguti, that you don't, or that you hate, King MisuZulu kaZwelithini. Let's start off with why you don't recognize him as the king.
Absolutely correct, because the reason why we say at the moment we don't have the king, because the process was not followed. You have portrayed it rightfully, saying that our concern was that the royal family never sat down and elect or appoint one of the king's sons as the king. That was not followed, because we, as his uncle, or in the terms of the Zulu word, O Baba Bake, they never sat down with the core royal family members, the ones that are supposed to deal with the matters. In saying that, we wish that the letter that was written by King Zwelithini appointing members of the Royal Council for them to deal with the matters that about his throne and the matters that tells the nation. Why are we sticking on it? That has to be honored. In Zulu we say, Mlomo ngathethi, his word is final. So if that was respected and we sat down as the family, as you have just alluded and said, we love the king's children, not only him only, and we recognize them equally. So the people that dealt and appointed and said, giving him the big word to say he's the king, he needs to get our blessing as well.
Some would say that he has already received the blessing from the AmaZulu nation, and that the ceremony that was held the fact that there wasn't any eventuality and the urgent court interdict to try and stop that was also thrown out the courts, are all signs that there is already the blessing. So you, as the fathers of King MisuZulu, you're saying that this event on Saturday doesn't have your blessing?
Of course, it doesn't have my blessing, because our blessing, because we never sat down to give him blessing, to say, you are rightful person to be on the throne. All the processes that they followed. You know, the king, before he left, before he passed on, he said everything, ceremonies will be held at one of his palaces, Enyogeni. So for them to create another kraal, it's another questionable thing. Even the queen mother of him was buried at the palace for the first time, because even his husband, her husband, she's laid down at the Mahashini. So you look at these things, do they have the blessing? Why? Because when she passed on, we were told she's the one that has to look after the throne. So for now, for her to be buried at the palace, it's a questionable thing.
What would you say to those from the AmaZulu nation who are watching you and saying you are also the source of conflict within the family over a matter that is done and dusted? Why do you continue to in the courts and also within the family? In other words, some may be looking at you and saying, Ngcobo, there is already a king on the throne.
You know, it's a pity that people will take it that way. Why I'm saying this? Because as the core members of the royal family, the ones that are supposed to deal with the affairs that touches the throne, the one who's supposed to be there, I'm so sorry for them because the process was not followed. We're still questioning that because not any member of the Zulu nation would come and say, I'm the cause of the conflict. The only reason why we are questioning is because we have even written letters to the president to let him know why are we saying we're not happy with the way the process was not followed.
Are you willing to come to the table to talk to King MisuZulu? Is this something that you're considering?
You know, it would be very nice for me to have a chat with him. Even every king's children, we can sit down and talk.
So why haven't you?
We have tried several times. Even my late sister, Princess Tembi, we went to and met him. Even the sister, Princess Nombuso, also went and met him. We are 11 people. The King Zwelithini taught us a very good thing about uniting the family and the nation. So the nation mustn't be misled and say Prince Mbonisi is causing conflict. I'm not that type of a person.
All right, that's Prince Mbonisi getting a bit emotional there when it comes to the relationship that he shares with King MisuZulu. I wonder if, according to him, I'm also not following protocol by referring to King MisuZulu as king. But certainly, as far as he's concerned, the incorrect none of the processes that should have been followed insofar as honoring the late wishes of King Zwelithini Ngcobo were followed. And that as far as they're concerned, the ceremony that's yet to take place on Saturday does not have their blessing. So we'll be continuing with covering all angles in the build-up to the handing over of the certificates of recognition that's taking place at the Moses Mabhida Stadium this Saturday. So stay tuned to Newzroom Afrika 405. We'll be back right after this break.